Susan Chicovsky of Green Mountain Harvest. She is a unique person, and you'll hear that. She was the first medical marijuana harvest and trim to be compliant in the state of Colorado, and she brings us through her journey, what brought her to Colorado, how she did what she's done, and where she's going from here. So, enjoy. Okay, so we have Susan Chicovsky, CEO, Green Mountain Harvest. Susan, you're the nicest person I know.
Well, that's very kind of you. I feel the same way about you. We're in good company.
Now, yeah, that's you just being kind again, because there's no way that I'm the nicest person you know. But I really do think that you're the nicest person that I know. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being hyperbolic.
Wow. Well, I'm humbled. Thank you.
So the way that I would describe you, besides being the nicest person I know, is that you really are the epitome of warmth. Whenever I get on the phone with you, whenever I'm in the same room with you, you are this warm spirit, Susan. Where does that come from?
From my daily prayers, from my mantras. I was called very young, literally by Spirit. Spirit spoke to me and said, "You're going to be a spiritual healer." I was 19. I was on my way back to college, and I'm like, where'd that come from? And I had a car accident. I couldn't go back to school. It ended up being minor, but it kept me out of school. And I thought, I'm going to listen to that voice from now on. So
Right.
For me, it's a lot about practicing listening, staying connected with Spirit. I've been a healer for 30 years, well, since 1980. And so utilizing that professionally, I had to live and breathe that work. And
Right.
I get trapped a few days, if you'd seen me this weekend, I just couldn't find that spirit, couldn't find that light. But I know that when I have that happen, great things come out of it. So
There
I
you
have
go.
to be with it. So it's not always roses, and I have my times. And this weekend
Absolutely.
happened to be one of them.
I've talked to you on some of those days that aren't perfect. You know what I mean? And I can tell that they're not perfect.
I like perfection.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Exactly.
All right, so the just dive in. You said it wasn't serious, so I'm happy to hear that. This car accident, we've kind of talked about it before, but take us through what happened there. It's obviously a pivotal moment in your life. You weren't able to return to school. What happened? When was it? What school were you going back to? Where were you coming from?
Okay. I was living in New Jersey at the time with my folks, and I had been to a year at the University of Dayton and was going to go back to my second year. And so when this voice came through and said, "You're going to be a spiritual healer," and I was raised Catholic, so that kind of goes against Catholicism. But interestingly enough, when I was 12, the nun, because I went to Catholic school, the nun said to me, because she knew about this part of me that could hear voices and see things, and she said, "You can't talk about this till you're late teens or early 20s. Don't talk to people about it. They don't get it." And so I really did a lot of inner work from that point forward. So when this voice came through that loud and I chose to try to go back, the accident kept me from walking for a month. So I couldn't be in the car and drive. So I did not return to school. And then got a part-time job as a receptionist and vowed that I would, once I got through that, it was at a place called Modern Album. We actually made album covers. Those were the days. And so it was a fine job. People were great, but I realized that I didn't want to work for anyone else. So I left that job and went to work at a hospital for 2 years. I was the ward clerk, so at the desk, I took care of everything, very organized. And the next step was that my husband, I'm at my mom's, and I get a message. John just left. That was my husband, and I said, "Mom, I got to go home." Well, he had packed up my van with all of his stuff and moved to Colorado, and called me a few days later and said, "I want you to come out." And it took me a few months just to finish things up, but I ended up in Kittredge, Colorado, and felt like I'd come home. And it's been an amazing Colorado journey since then. He and I actually divorced a year later, and I didn't want to go back to New Jersey. I just felt like I'd landed.
I was going to say I've known you for a little bit here, and I am not aware of this husband, but it is because you're divorced.
Exactly.
Right. Now you just mentioned I think like 5 things here that I want to kind of talk through, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all.
Yeah. So the car accident you said wasn't serious. You also said that it kept you from walking.
Yes.
So that's serious, Susan.
Well,
right?
It was serious, but nothing broken. I was just really bashed up. We hit some oil on a rainy road, and so when we spun, we hit a tree, and my foot landed in the speaker. It was a Mustang, in the speaker of the Mustang, and so they had to do traction. And so to me, it wasn't serious. I wasn't broken. I knew I was going to be okay, but for 1 month, I was not able to, walk around.
Wow.
Drive, do anything. So it was, to me, definitely a message that, and when that voice speaks to me, I listen. And
Yeah.
I think that was my biggest learning from that was it's okay to listen. It's okay to make choices too.
Yeah. Being inert for a month. What lesson did you learn from that?
How much my family loved me. I mean, they took such good care of me.
They kept coming? They kept coming.
It just was amazing. Friends, I mean, it was amazing because I'm a pretty strong woman and I'd never really been injured. And I had no clue, I couldn't go downstairs. I'm in my bed. Just, how much my family, my friends, how much support there was in my life. And a lot of inner work, just a lot of meditation, praying, listening. I think it really gave me the opportunity to have that door fully opened for me to access with spirit.
I wonder, out of those family members, who informed who you are most? Who contributed to who we know as Susan?
I think both my mom and dad did. My mom in a different way, because my dad died when I was 21, and I'll go into that in a second. But my mom contracted syringomyelia when I was a year old, and this is a cyst in the spinal cord. They told her, the doctors told her she had 5 years to live and she'd be in a wheelchair within a year. And she basically said, that's not going to happen. So I have a year younger sister at that point. And it was just amazing. Mom, she spent a lot of time in bed. Her horrible, horrible pain. She had some of the first radiation surgery at Johns Hopkins. They know her well. Most people die within 5 years of syringomyelia. My mom died when she was 84. So she taught me about will and how will affects the spirit, the strength. You can surrender. If you give in to what you're told at times, for instance, when I worked in the hospital as a ward clerk, there was a woman that was 36 years old who was told she had ovarian cancer. She'd never had children. There was no physical reason for her to die, but she did. She just didn't want to go on. So my mom wanted to go on. She wanted to still have a life. So it took quite a few. I think by the time I was 12, she was much more functionable as a mother. Prior to that, she spent a lot of time in bed. Just horrible, horrible pain. So she taught me about the power of will. She taught me about food. And I started looking at healing properties of food. She helped me. I learned how to cook for my family, take care of my family. She just taught me so much through the years about listening, about healing, that nothing's impossible. And I think that gave me between that and my father, the biggest foundation for healing.
Right.
Sharing that with others.
That makes a lot of sense. And in terms of the food, I want to get into that, and the healing, I want to get into that. But you mentioned your dad died when you were 21.
He did.
Well, I mean, yeah.
It was, see, I'm going to cry. So 6 weeks before he died, I had a vision that he was dying. And Dad and I were real close. He very much believed in the spiritual part of me and others. I think we all have it. I just have honed it differently. So I went to see him, and he said, yes, that's accurate. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm done. And I'm like, Daddy, I'm 21. Excuse me, this is not a disc problem. This is a heart problem. And he said, it doesn't matter. I don't want to be here. And so for 6 weeks, every morning, I'd go have tea with him on the way to work. And I worked in the hospital at Hunterdon Medical Center in Flemington, New Jersey. And So that 6 weeks later, I went to see him, and he was in the bathroom, and he said, "Honey, I won't be able to see you today. I'll talk to you later." And I swear, Seth, I'd had a vision that night before that this was the day, and I didn't want to believe it. So I kind of pushed it in the background. And so I went to work, and about 10 o'clock, they called a code on second floor, and my whole vision came forward. I knew exactly what was going to happen, what doctors, all of it. So it was like got really misty. It was kind of eerie, and the two doctors walk up and look at me, and they're in tears because they know. And then Dr. Midler called me down the back steps. And as I mentioned, the only part of my dream that I actually changed was the doctor in my dream who told me was a doctor that I was sexually attracted to. But it was really Dr. Midler, one of my best friends there, who came and told me. And
Right.
it was just, it was a relief on one hand because I know he was following what he believed. And he wasn't going to be in pain anymore. But it was hard. I mean, Dad and I were super close. So he taught me
Right.
about listening. So between he and Mom, they were just a great gift for me. And we moved every 6 months because my dad was a poultry specialist. So I learned how to be around people. I learned how to go into a new school and make friends right away. I think that warmth that you mentioned before comes from going to 19 schools by the time I'm in 10th grade, or 19 moves. So if I wanted to be part of stuff, I had to learn how to do that. So they gave me, I think they laid my whole life out for me. It was really good.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Wait, so what did your dad do? What did you say he did?
He was a poultry specialist. So wherever...
Poultry, so like chicken?
Chicken specialist. So whenever chickens would get a disease, we would go to somewhere in Maryland or Ohio or New York or Pennsylvania. And he would go in, we'd move, and he would take care of them, get the whole flock back up and running. Kind of an odd job. People used to say, "Oh, was your dad in the military?" And I'm like, "No, he's a poultry specialist." And they don't get it. Right. It's kind of a weird thing. I don't even know if they have them anymore. But
totally.
Yeah.
So you took me on that tangent, but let me get back to, you were working, because you had mentioned that you went to work for the place called Modern Album and then went to work for the hospital. Do I have that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then, so you were working in the hospital that your dad was in?
He was in the phone booth. We have no idea who he was calling. He died in the phone booth of the hospital that I worked at on the second floor, and I knew when they called that code. And he had a massive coronary. They wouldn't let me see him. So yeah, it was he had switched from being a poultry specialist to a hotel motel manager. So he actually was running the Princeton Inn in Princeton, New Jersey, and he was on his way to work. And for some reason, stopped in the hospital, got in the phone booth, had a massive coronary, and that was that. A little odd.
The hospital that you worked at.
Yep.
The hospital that you worked at.
Yep. Yep.
Crazy. And then he went into a phone booth, which is, for the fact that we are talking to each other in 2015, it makes it.
Yeah, really. We didn't have cell phones then.
There were there were these things called phone booths. But who do you think he was calling? You don't know.
I have no idea, because he could have literally walked up the steps to see me. So one. That's kind of a mystery.
Yeah, that's an interesting little. I guess that's the we'll never know kind of part of this.
Right.
So as far as you mentioned your mother, you mentioned your father, it sounds like both of them could have benefited from cannabis as medicine, right?
Absolutely. Mom actually did.
Okay.
I got her stuff, and it.
So what now? I've been trying not to ask you, but what year is this so that we have some context?
This was a year before she died. She died in 2013, so 2012. So
Oh, okay. Oh, so when she was 84. Okay, good.
When she was 84.
Go
now
on.
I gave her.
Yeah.
On the other end of it, when I was 19, was the first time I introduced it to her. We went to see Fantasia after. It was awesome.
And did she take to it or no?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And it helped her a lot. And she has actually, she smoked, maybe a dozen or I don't know how many more times, because she moved to Colorado when she was 68. She packed up the car. This is a crazy woman. And my aunt, they got a U-Haul truck. They moved to Colorado at 68 years young. And so then, what?
Were you already in Colorado?
Yeah, I came here in 1972.
Got it. And so from the time that you were 19 and to the time that she was 84, was she using cannabis as medicine or no?
When we could, when I could get that for her.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
That was prior to legalization, but it did definitely help her. And then when it was legalized, because she's on Medicaid, she couldn't get a red card and use it. And because she lived in an assisted living, federally funded, paid for by Medicaid, she was not allowed to use it, even though her therapist suggested that I get her some.
Right. Now, you said that it helped her. How? How did it help her?
Her pain decreased by 75%. It's really simple.
Got it. And because you do the 1 to 10, how much pain are you in?
Yeah.
7, 8, whatever, 7.5, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then for your dad, that was sudden, so there wasn't that opportunity.
No, there was not.
Right. Okay. So I guess just to change gears drastically, let's talk about Modern Album. I mean, that's one of the coolest things that I ever heard.
It was awesome.
You did. Right. So this was just jackets, or what was it? So
we did the pictures for the jackets. Yep.
Get out of here.
No,
where was that business?
It was in Flemington, New Jersey also.
Uh-huh. And this is, by the way, vinyl is what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
And what kind of album pictures went through your hands?
Oh, 90% of them. We were the top jacket company in the country, to my knowledge. So it's telling my age too, isn't it? When we're back to vinyl.
Right.
So we just massive amounts. I never got to see any stars, but we did get to go to concerts. We were gifted.
Well, that's good.
And I can't even remember who, but I think Grateful Dead was one. That was awesome.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun. A lot of unusual people worked there. That's where I met my first husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also, I didn't like the office detail stuff, even though it was a very cool place to be. And that's when I think I first decided, I think I'm going to work for myself. It kind of is a fleeting thought. And then after working at the hospital for 2 years and then moving to Colorado, I never worked for anyone again. I worked for myself since 1972.
Got it. And I want to get to that. But again, I got to press you here, no pun intended.
Yeah, thank you.
On the album covers, I need to know what albums do you remember, or don't you? Don't you remember? You don't remember anything.
Way too long ago. Yeah, I don't. I just remember being astonished because they were very famous, recording people. I was astonished, and I never thought about.
And so
you have to get the picture on the jacket. You have to make the jacket, for the vinyl. So it was a new process. Sorry, I don't remember.
Wow.
Telling my age again?
That's fine. But what you do remember is you had a fleeting thought, though, that you didn't want to work for anyone else. How much do you remember about that at Modern Album? And then we'll get into the hospital, and then we'll get to Colorado.
That was the first.
But at Modern,
But that was the first time I had that thought. I didn't really. I went to college for business and psychology, which I've ended up doing both, interestingly enough, without a degree. Although I have a master's in metaphysics. But anyway, so I had that fleeting thought at Modern Album. When I worked at the hospital, I lived in a commune, and everybody smoked pot. I mean, it was just the thing to do. There were 3 families living in one house and then 2 in the other. And I really didn't like it. I got paranoid on it. And I worked in a hospital. Now, they didn't do urine tests or anything, at that point. There wasn't an issue. But I just didn't really work for me. And so when I left the hospital and came to Colorado, then, of course, things changed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, no, but in terms of wanting to work for yourself, I guess I was asking.
Sure.
At Modern Album, do you remember the thought kind of creeping across your mind, or do you remember that it was a fleeting thought? In other words, what inspired that?
I mean, because it was there was emotion behind it. It's like, I don't want my life to be working at a desk for someone else. I'm passionate about things. I want to help people. I mean, my body still has that, that reaction, kind of. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. So you're at Modern Album. You get that feeling. You go to a hospital. I feel like the desire to help people would be answered there.
It
No.
was, which is why I went there.
Okay.
It was amazing. I learned
Okay.
so much about spirit, so much about will. I mean, Mrs. Allison was diagnosed with lymphatic cancer. She said, "Well, I'm not going to die because, my husband and I just retired." She was balding. Her skin was yellow. 5 years later, she contacted me and said, "Hey, how are you?" It was amazing. They traveled the world. I mean, so I learned so much about death, about dying, about healing. It was just remarkable. So I think that set me on the healing path also.
Got it. All right. So you keep being introduced to people that will inform your desire to heal.
Right.
So, you say you've been a healer since 1980. Why do you choose? Why is it 1980 that began?
Well, it began in 1971, but professionally, it began in 1980.
Uh-huh.
I actually graduated from a healing school in May of 1980. So I had been
Okay.
doing it. I had restaurants, and when I came to Colorado, I started in the restaurant business, and I started working with people. They'd come to the back door and say, "What herbs do I need to take for this? What do I do with that? Would you adjust my neck?" And I thought, man, if I'm doing this and everything else that goes along with restaurant business that you own, I thought I could hang up a shingle and start a business. So I went to school for healing, and that changed my life.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So wait, let me back up. As far as getting you to Colorado, how did you find Colorado?
My husband, of the time, when I was working at the hospital, we lived in this commune, and I was at my mom's one afternoon. And after Daddy had died, Daddy died July 26th. And I was visiting my mom, and I'm like, "Oh my God, John's just taken my van. He's moved to Colorado." It was an intuitive flash. Went back to the commune. Indeed, he had. He called me 3 days later and said, "I'm going back to Colorado. I want you to come." And it took probably 6 or 8 weeks for me to pull everything together. I wasn't willing to walk out on the hospital. I had to train. And so then I moved to Colorado. And
Got it.
yeah, it's home.
Now, was he from Colorado? Is that
Yes, he was from Denver.
John, your ex-husband?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then was this a red flag that he kind of just took your van and left?
Yeah. Big time. Well, I just remembered something, Seth. I just remembered this.
Yeah.
So I went to John and said, "Hey, my dad is dying. I want to get married."
Yeah.
Because I lived in another commune, and my father was just flippant. He didn't want me to be part of the family. Amazing, I'd forgotten this. So he stopped seeing me. So when I got the vision that he was dying, I went to John and said, "Can we get married? I got to get back in with my dad." He said yes. We got married in July, and Daddy died in July. Or no, we got married in April. Daddy died in July. So I knew, obviously, longer than 6 weeks. Putting the memories back into place. So, I don't think I ever thought we'd stay together. But my dad was really important to me, and I loved John. He's a great guy. Still in Denver, as far as I know. I haven't talked to him in some years. So that got me to Colorado, and then a year later we got divorced. And I stayed in Colorado because it's like home.
Yeah, sure. And by that time you had been in the restaurant business. How did you get into the restaurant business? Was that just basically, basic waiting tables and all that, or?
Yeah, after I left the hospital, I came to Colorado. I wanted to work for myself. So I kept eating at this restaurant, and she knew I liked to cook, and she said, "Do you want to, do some management, maybe partnering with me?" And so I did. And she decided she didn't want to do it, so I took over. That was my first restaurant, and it was an old hippie, a hippie cowboy bar. So the bartender had a braid down to his butt, but all the cowboys would come in, and here I am, a young hippie, and the restaurant sold, and the gentleman said, "You have to use all frozen foods," and I said, "I can't do that." So the bartender bought another restaurant called the Whipple Tree. He asked me to come up and do the kitchen, so that was my very first real restaurant. It's still an evergreen after 40 years.
Wow.
I know.
Well, now, but just real quick, you mentioned something interesting there. You said that she wouldn't do it, or didn't want to do it, or couldn't do it, or whatever, and you said, "Okay, I'll do it." That's the first, in this conversation that we're having today, that's the first kind of management, leadership kind of light bulb. How did that happen, and where did that come from?
Because I think I love to cook, taking care of my mom and my dad. and the family.
Mm-hmm.
That it was a real natural place for me to go to, was graduate from managing to really owning that place. It just happened.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't, she just said, I can't do this anymore. It's yours. There was no money exchange. She just was done. And so,
Right.
but I didn't own the building or anything. So that's when I got the call to go up to do the other restaurant with my friend Roger. And after 4 years of that, I had 5 restaurants total in about 6 years. I took some time off, and then I went to healing school.
Mm-hmm. And how many years were you in healing school?
1 year. All of my life,
Okay.
primarily, but 1 year professionally that I could get a certificate on the wall.
Got it. Okay, and then what did you do with that certificate on the wall?
I created international healing practice and traveled all over the country about 4 months out of the year, did healing workshops, did private sessions in Manhattan, of all places. I loved it. Hawaii, Houston, LA, San Francisco. And then I saw clients at my an office in my home because I wanted to have kids and raise them from my home. So at any rate, that's down the road. So I had a private office at my home, and I had people coming from all over the world. People would fly in to see me. And I'm humbled when I say this because it was such an incredible part of my life. And then the Denver Post actually contacted me and came up and did an article on me. They did a 3-page article on me. And that they claimed that I was real, basically. And that was in, I think, I'd have to look back. It was in the early 80s. And actually the gentleman who wrote the story became my piano teacher. But this article absolutely threw me out into the public. I think we had 500 calls in the first 2 weeks. So I was booked out for 6 months for the next 8 years.
Yeah.
I was just so busy.
Yeah, okay. So booked out for the next 6 months, for the next 8 years, but you had already had people kind of flying to you, correct or no?
No, correct. I already had a very nice healing practice, but not an international one and not that busy.
Got it. And what besides the article, you already had a healing practice, as you said. Mm-hmm. What was it, do you think, that made the Denver Post believe? What was it that it made the patients believe in you as a healer?
Because I asked them to believe in themselves. Because
so that's just a good business
lesson.
I
was a channel. I was written up in a book in 1986 and listed as one of the top 17 healers and channelers in the country, which was another big buildup. Because I never made it about me. I always let them know, you have this gift or you have this potential. Because I don't believe living at that place is really a gift. I think it just takes fine-tuning, honing. And so I was able to pull through incidences that maybe they stumbled emotionally and was able to help them build a bridge back to healing.
So that's fantastic, but your lesson of believe in yourself is that is very translatable to anything and everything.
Exactly.
So you're doing this, you're healing for a number of years.
I still am, actually. I just got calls last week. What a hoot.
Yeah.
It was awesome. From one of my clients from 25 years ago. That's why I still have this phone number. Yeah. I think it'll always be a part of me, and I really miss it because it's a very creative, open place that I lived in my heart, and doing business takes a little bit of that away. It doesn't have to, and I'm working on that, but it can.
But let's talk about business, because where's the inflection point between your healing practice and Green Mountain Harvest?
5 years ago, in September, one of my clients said, I want you to get into the medical marijuana industry. I'm going to give you $100,000, go do a dispensary. Well, as it turns out, $100,000 wouldn't have made it, and you can't take money from people out of state. So we talked to a dispensary owner, and he said, my God, you're an organic gardener. You do bonsai, you do healing. You should start a harvest company, a trimming company. And I'm like, what? So I still have my private practice, and to me it felt like it went against that, just on some odd level. So I basically meditated about it for a month, and Spirit kept saying, yes, yes, yes. This needs to be your new mission. So I still have my practice, not anywhere as busy as I used to be. So October 2nd was my son's birthday. That's why I remember the day. I incorporated and got clearance from the state to start the Harvest and Trim Company. And being a healer, I'm on a mission to make sure that product is not contaminated, the energy is clear, no drama in the trim room. So a lot of my, my healing stuff has come forward into this. It's also a lot of detailed business stuff, which fortunately I've delegated.
I want to dive in on the trimming, but you did just mention that you have a son.
I am. It's a lot of work. I have 106 employees. I don't think I've ever worked this hard in my life, but the benefits are huge. I just bought a house, getting my daughter through college. I'm helping patients by making sure that product is clean. If we notice any powdery mildew or anything on it, we immediately go to the owners and say, this product is not trimmable. What do you want to do?
Right. So it kind of, and we're going to talk about your son and daughter in a minute, but dive in on the trimming as far as what you are doing, what the purpose is, and those tough conversations that you are having with folks that are not giving you product that you can use.
90% of them say okay, and they trash it. Some of them do not. Some of them I don't work for anymore.
Right.
Because it's not right. You have to give product to patients. Seth, I grew herbs for years for my patients and dried them, and I picked native Colorado herbs for them. So during the winter, they would know where to come. They'd come and see me. I'd get them the herbs that they need along with information. So I know how valuable plants from the earth can be for people, including marijuana. I mean, I saw what it did for my mom. And I've had a couple instances where it's really helped me. So that leap was, once I got into it, was not hard to do. To take that healing knowledge into this industry. Eventually, I'd love to have a kitchen so that I can do some infused soups for sick people. That's not being done.
Right.
Right. That's probably down the road a little bit. I have a few other missions I'm on right now.
Well, you're very busy at Green Mountain Harvest. Take us through what's been going on over the past 6-9 months.
Wow. The MED said that we'd set the model for the country. This was probably a year ago. And that we should take the model out and get it to other states. Because I worked with the state to create weights. They didn't know about trimming. I want clean rooms, eventually very safe clean rooms. Right now I've been working with the governor's office, the state of Nevada. I've spoken at legislature there about what a trim room needs to look like so that the product's not contaminated. By perfume that someone's wearing. My guys aren't allowed to wear perfume or cologne because molecularly that can contaminate it. So we're up to getting national packages out to people around the country that are interested in an ancillary business, and that's very, very exciting. Working on getting mine done in Nevada. They actually didn't have vendor's license, so Senator Siegerblum asked me to come in and create a vendor's license, talk to the Senate subcommittee, which I did, and they approved it. So that should be through November at the latest. We're hoping July. So we're doing that. Green Mountain Harvest has grown. We have a trimmer training school, so we have people that move here that want to be in the industry. Once they get their badge, their Colorado State MED badge, they can come in and learn to trim, and we hire them. So I'm trying to make it as available for people. We hire disabled people that can only work, 3 days a week. So I have from 21, my oldest is 89. And he is a fabulous trimmer. Absolutely incredible. Rides a motorcycle. Right. Just a great guy. So I have a lot of different kinds of people. Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
Totally. So you are working with the governor's office there in Colorado.
Correct.
You sat sat with the Nevada Advisory Commission, correct?
Yes.
You kind of mentioned that in passing, and with Tick, who by the way will be on, which we're excited about.
Oh, cool! He's wonderful.
Yeah. But what advice are you giving? Yes, you're working, with both Colorado and Nevada. What are you saying to them? Beyond we've got to have basic standards. What else are you saying? What's the next level? The next level is creating clean rooms. So the governor's office, when I let them know what kind of places we were trimming in, what my thought was that all insecticides, pesticides, and chemicals be removed from the trim room, because if those bottles are open, we don't know the molecular weight. We don't know how far it travels. We don't know we can smell it.
I'm assuming it can get onto the plant. I spent years and years on the radio about harmful ingredients. And so that was another piece. It's like every part of my life has brought me forward and usable at this point with Green Mountain Harvest. It's pretty interesting. So our agreement was, because they're interested in, of course, having healthy product, so that we put food grade butcher paper on the tables so the tables aren't contaminated. My crew wears gloves, pull the hair back, all that kind of good stuff. And eventually I want to see clean rooms like the Netherlands. They're doing it.
Right.
And that's going to take time because there's an aerator that I want in the corner that pulls out all powdery mildew, mold, and bacteria from the room, which means it's pulling it from the plant too. So it's just getting these thoughts through. Well, the jobs that I have heard me. I have to say it's taken a couple of years, but they've heard me. And so that's what we're doing. But I've seen places people shouldn't be trimming in. And I think that's being upgraded. I think people are really getting a clearer idea that this is actually, a food product and a medicine. So it should be treated as such.
So, getting to the packages that you're providing for places like Nevada, what's going on there as far as Green Mountain Harvest presence in Nevada? What's the latest there?
Well, unfortunately, the woman I was working with just didn't work out. So I'm looking for a partner and to do Green Mountain Las Vegas. It'll actually include Nye County and Lincoln County, I think it is. So it will include those three counties. So I have some people that are looking at it.
Good.
Yeah, and then we're working with people in Rhode Island. She's looking at Rhode Island, Maine, and Massachusetts. Chicago's been brought to my attention. Oregon, Washington. Tyler's he's now my CEO. I'm just the owner. I moved him up.
Right.
He's going to Alaska. Since I broke my foot, I can't go. So he's leaving for Alaska next week to go speak about all this. And then I'll be going to Tacoma and Portland. So just wanting to get the word out.
Totally. And for partners in those places, what makes a good partner? Who should I be if I'm going to be a partner with Susan and Green Mountain Harvest?
Someone that's creative, that has business experience. You don't have to know everything about business. You don't have to know anything about the cannabis industry, because I didn't know anything when I started. I had to create all the compliance paperwork, and so that what they get is everything that we've done for 5 years that we've done right. They get, and it's a blueprint. And we've got it on digital. They get. I mean, we're partners. They're going to own 98% of it, but I'm going to partner with them.
Right.
So, or they'll get 98% of the income rather. Green Mountain will own 51%. They'll own 49%, but they'll get the main income. So it's a great ancillary business for the industry. It's one that can really be developed better with basic needs for, the medicine. And it's exciting. I never thought I'd be in politics. My God, I'm an old hippie, Now I'm in politics. Yeah. Somewhat thanks to you
really
because
are.
that's when I met Tick Siggerbloom. And that's when he took me to Nevada.
You're welcome for that.
Thank
you. I'm happy to be doing our little part here in helping move the industry forward. Another part of what you're doing is you already mentioned it. I've got as young as 21. I've got as old as 84. And you're employing very pretty much anyone, right? Is that a good way to say it?
Anyone that has commercially trained experience, and if not, they go through the trimmer training school, and we train them. It's right. More cost effective for the grows. So I'm hiring people that are passionate about pot, passionate about marijuana, that want to be in the industry. I have I have 14 supervisors. I have a CEO. I have a COO. I don't like the labels a lot, being an old hippie, but we have to target the business's needs also. So I've got people that have been with me for more than 3 years. I think we've really hit a stabilizing point on the 106 people. These people, they love it. They go in and trim pot every day.
And we've talked about charity in the past. What's going on with your thoughts on charity now?
Well, again, I'm holding you responsible for this one, dear. When I was at the Cannabis Economy event, the international one in New York, we were talking about charity, and you said, Susie, what do you think? And out of my mouth from Spirit came, we're going to get the names of people that have paved the way that are in jail and see if we can get them cleared and get them and rehabilitate them and get them into the industry. So I'm pretty jazzed about this. I just met with the sheriff's office yesterday. They are giving me a list for Jefferson County. It's going to take a lot of legwork and months, but it's worth it. So I want to help people that bought an ounce of pot in 2003 or whatever and are still in jail. We've got lawyers coming on board, other companies. I think it's a great thing to help these people feel better about themselves because they're in jail watching this. And some of them don't need to be. We only are targeting the nonviolent offenders.
And you, how many employees do you already have?
106.
And you've got over 100 employees. You're providing jobs, or at least job potential to folks that are outside of the workforce. So you're literally creating jobs.
Oh, absolutely. And we just booked a huge job today. That's a 5-day-a-week job, as he says, forever. And then it's 10 people a day, and then it's going to go to 16. So I'm going to have to increase my workforce. So we're doing really well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's more work than I've ever done, but the benefits of helping people, which is part of my mission, and helping patients, getting good product, it really fits that. Plus, I'm an organic gardener, so I get to sometimes help and talk about my bonsai techniques. And again, just basically helping people. It's kind of what I live for.
Yeah, and what would the girl that was laying in the bed for a month after the car accident, how would she view the woman that we're talking to today? Because you are a business person.
She'd be laughing her buns off. I stopped smoking pot in the 70s. I mean,
What?
Yeah. And now, one time in 1984, my husband, my second husband, we were at a party. I was the only one of 70 people not smoking pot. And these are all my dear friends for many, many years. And they said, Susie, you got it. And I said, okay, fine. I had a couple of drinks. I smoked some pot. My husband said, I don't feel good. Something bit me. You need to take me home. He's like, you have to drive. I'm like, I'm really high. Hello. So anyway, I got it together, drove home. He was bitten by a brown recluse. So he had the red line going up to his heart. We did not have emergency medical service where I lived. We lived way out in the country. So all of my healing, I did reflexology, I did Jinshin Jitsu, which I think is what saved him. We took him to the hospital the next morning because I couldn't drive that night, other than get him home. So I took him to the doctor the next morning, and he said, I don't know what you've done, but, you're doing great. He also couldn't walk for probably a month, but he got through it. So at that point, that was the last time I smoked. And so for me to go from being this very spiritual healer to working in the medical marijuana industry was a huge leap. Yeah. And so my 19-year-old's like, but everything I've ever done is included in the business. It's very, very interesting to me. It's, and I think listening creates that path of flexibility. And so she's laughing. She's laughing. I mean, I don't smoke much now. I do occasionally, but it's just such a hoot to see how when you allow it and get out of the way, everything comes together. That rhythm, that life rhythm, that white light spirit rhythm really works.
And how similar are your son and daughter to you, or how different are they to you?
Well, I have 2 adopted daughters and a stepson. I lost babies, and so I stopped trying. So I dreamt about my daughter, my first daughter, and we found the birth mother. She contacted us. And Kayla is very spiritual. She's an artist. We live together. It's absolutely wonderful. We've become good friends. The mother-daughter thing, because she's 23, is kind of shifted. And to be honest with you, unfortunately, my other daughter does not speak to us, didn't talk to my mom. She removed herself from the family. So I'm blessing her and praying that someday she'll want to get back in touch with us.
Right. And, what we'll do is we will talk to you about that next time, I guess, because we're coming up against the end here. And I do have a couple of last questions. But sure. I, by the way, have faith that you will be getting back in contact with that daughter. That's just me.
I have faith, too, but I have to let her do it at her timing.
That's it. That's exactly
It's her path right now.
All right. So
go ahead.
That's it. So, okay, so my last question is in 2 parts. It uses the same words. So the first question is, what has most surprised you in cannabis? And then the last question is, what has most surprised you in life? And so some people are answering with one answer, but what has most surprised you in cannabis?
That I would even be doing this. And I'm saying that, lovingly and jestingly. I think that the biggest thing is, for me, that people are accepting the fact that there is a healing product that can actually really work and get people off of what I consider harmful prescription drugs that are very toxic to the body. And I think I think at this point, Seth, everything surprises me in life. I've really reached a point where so many things change, and there's so many gifts that every day I'm surprised by something. And that, 10 years ago, I thought I knew everything. I don't know anything.
Right.
So I think in both of that, the not knowing about where cannabis is going, the not knowing where my life is leading, but surrendering to both, because I'm right where I need to be.
Amazing. Susan Chicovsky, tell Beethoven the news. You're the best, Susan. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, and we'll do this again. Like I said, there's plenty more to cover, and we got to keep in touch with you and see how it all goes with all these other states and regions and places, and we will run with you down the path of life. How about that?
I love it, and I love working with you guys. You've been inspiring. You've actually opened opportunities for me between Chicovsky Bloom in Nevada, between now this mission that I'm on. So you've been a real creative force behind what I'm doing, and I am so grateful for all of you. Thank you.
You got it. And we're grateful for you, Susan. We'll talk to you in a bit.
Okay. Bye, Seth.
Susan Chicovsky, right? The nicest person I know, and now the nicest person that you know. So she considers herself a healer, but she has built this business, Green Mountain Harvest, into being a leading example for trim in Colorado, and now she's making her way kind of across the states. So let's watch her go.